Okay, let's go.
I'm Nicole Lee, and welcome back to You Never Know, where we talk about life, career, change, and the stories of people who have taken the unconventional road and embraced the unknowns. If you liked my content and podcast so far, remember to like, follow, or subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this to help me create more relevant content for you in the future. It means so much to me. Today's guest knows exactly what it means to build something from scratch, to watch it grow and then make the tough decision to let it go and start all over again. He's a fintech veteran, a founder, a sales aficionado, and an ultra-endurance athlete. Some of you might know him as being the founder of Bambu, a robo-advisory fintech firm based in Singapore that ran for 8 years before shutting its doors in 2023. Now he's taking everything he's learned about business and selling and helping startup founders get better at it through his new venture called the Sales Movement. He told me that I could ask him anything today, so we're going to be talking about everything under the sun, from the raw truths about being a founder to the importance of sales and how he always manages to bounce back, whether in business, in life, or in a 100-kilometer race. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Ned Phillips to You Never Know. Ned, welcome.
Nicole, thank you so much. It's always, when you hear someone else talking about you, you're
yes.
like, oh, okay, that sounds...
That's you?
That's okay, it makes sense.
Yeah?
But I appreciate it. It'll be fun to chat. I've been following you, what you've been through, and I know we caught up the other day. So excited to chat about, as you said, anything and everything.
Thank you so much. I know we've been following each other on LinkedIn, but I only met you recently, and I'm really grateful. And I haven't told you this before, but you are actually so much warmer and so much more affable in person than you are on your posts.
You mentioned that, and I'm like, do I come across as mean on my post? But I do post a lot about do more. It's quite a strong run more, do more.
Yes.
And I think you're right. Maybe some people are like, oh my God, this dude's... But, I always say everything with good intent. I know it's not always for everybody, but I appreciate that.
No problem. So really great for you to be here. I wanted to first ask you where you're from, Ned, and when you moved to Singapore?
A little bit confused. I was actually born in Australia.
Oh.
But I only lived there for 3 months.
Okay.
So my parents went to Australia in the 60s. So I'm 57. I was born in 1967. And my parents moved to Australia back then to see if they wanted to live there. I was born there. Same with my sister. But after 5 years, my dad's a scientist, and with no disrespect to Australia, but in the 60s, it was a long way away. There was no internet.
Yeah.
And my dad felt very cut off from science. So they moved back to the UK. And so from the age of 1 when I moved back to 20 when I lived in Scotland. So when people say, where are you from? I say Scotland.
Right.
I grew up in Scotland. My folks, love them. We lived quite an alternative lifestyle, almost self-sufficient. We lived in the countryside, grew our own food, caught our own food.
Okay.
Quite a self-sufficient in the countryside of Scotland. Not that remote, but a little bit remote. And then I moved to Hong Kong when I was 22. And I've been in Asia ever since. So I regard myself as Scottish.
Yeah.
My mum always told me that never regard yourself where you're from. Just, are you a good human or not? So I aspire to be a good human.
That's absolutely 100% true. I like to ask people where they're from because it gives me a bit of indication about how you grew up and what shaped you. But you're right, at the end of the day, or she's right. At the end of the day, we are people. And actually, it doesn't really matter where you come from. But it's very interesting to understand how you grew up so that, you get a better understanding.
It does shape you. I came to Singapore in 2003 and I have a daughter living here. And you're right, but I lived in Hong Kong for 10 years. But there is relevance.
Yes.
Growing up in the Scottish countryside is different from growing up in a city. Mm-hmm. And it does shape who you are. Ultimately, it does come down to, are you a good human or not? Mm-hmm. That's my criteria. Yeah. But you're right. Everyone, I used, when I was young and we were self-sufficient, catching our own food and growing our own food, I was like, can't I just be like the other kids? I don't want to be weird. Like we were the weirdos. I want to be weird. Now at 57, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so happy I did that. So sometimes it takes a while to appreciate.
Of
who you are.
course, of course. That just crossed my mind as well because you had to learn how to take care of yourself versus being fed and being looked after. So
That's a good way of putting it.
definitely carried you really far in your life and through your experiences as well.
Maybe, who knows? Still a long way to go.
But I mean, yeah, like you said, it takes some time to actually process it. Even for me growing up in Singapore, sometimes I didn't feel like I really belonged here. But at the same time, I'm sort of appreciating as well now what I have, where I'm at, and looking at all the goodness in where I'm at, and then learn how to thrive in that kind of environment as well.
It's easy to be like, this part sucks or this bit of my life sucks. In general, I'm going to say, if we're sitting in a podcast studio in Singapore, we have first world problems. That doesn't mean they're not real problems.
Yeah, I get it.
Of course.
Yeah, I get it.
We all have our own ups and downs, and we'll talk about some of these ups and downs. But you're right. I think you can only really appreciate what you had as a kid later. When you were a kid, when I was a kid, I was like, my parents making me like dig vegetables. This sucks.
Yes.
But they realized, oh my God, that was awesome. And
Yeah.
same. I've had kids now who are now 24 and 22, and I'm sure at times they were like, oh my God, Dad, you're so embarrassing. Stop that. And now, well, I don't think I'm cool, but we've always had a good relationship. But you're right. There's this journey of how you perceive yourself and how others perceive you.
I'm always curious. So everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people know you as the founder of Bambu.
Mm-hmm.
What made you start Bambu in the first place?
I'm not a planner, Nicole. I'm not a planner. I'm not going to tell you.
Thank you for being so honest.
I'm not going to tell you. I had this long drawn out. Really, I like the word happenstance.
I love that.
Happenstance, which is
Yeah.
what happens around you.
Of course.
I had a 20-year corporate career, 25 corporate, and I really enjoyed it, always in sales.
Yeah.
And then 2015, 16, had some good investments.
Yeah.
Wasn't retired, but didn't exactly need to work. Kind of in between, could take 6 months, a year off. And it was pretty fun. And then I had lunch with a guy called Ludovic, who's a good friend of mine. And he said to me, because fintech was just starting, it was 2015. And he said, Ned, you've been in fintech for your whole life. So I used to work at E-Trade, one of the very early online brokers. So I'd been in fintech. I used to build stock exchanges. So I'd been in finance and technology. And he's like, you should start a fintech. And honestly, I went home, I was like, yeah, maybe I should. And then two of my friends who were running a fintech in Hong Kong called 8 Securities, just fortuitously called me and said, hey, do you want to help us a little bit with this fintech? And it was a robo-advisor and an online broker, which is the area I knew. I'm like, sure. So I did a bit of work for them. And then I was like, oh, this is cool. I should start my own. And it really came from that. During that period, I also turned down Robinhood. I talked to Robinhood.
Yeah.
I had the chance to run their international business. It didn't work out. I also built a crypto exchange in 2015. Thought nobody would buy crypto, so shut it. And I ended up with Bambu, which was the robo-advisor. So a little bit of just my experience, the fact I was here, and a kind of a suggestion from somebody to try.
It was meant to be. It was.
Everything's meant to be, right?
Yeah, it is. It was meant to be. And so that's a great story. Now, like you ran it for 8 years.
I did.
And I know that you've probably been asked several times, but what happened and how do you feel after shutting something that you've grown after 8 years?
That's super hard. So we died twice. So to give a bit of context to the story.
Yeah.
The first time we died, we almost died but didn't.
Okay.
So the second time we died, and when I say died, the company closing.
Yeah.
It was less painful. What happened? Why does any company shut? It runs out of money. I know that's very, and I don't mean to trivialize it.
Yeah.
But we ran out of money. We were not. It came to a point we were not able to pay our ongoings. Staff, rent, everything else. Like every startup's almost always dying and living. The roles of it. So, what is the key mistake? Why did we run out of money? We were building robo-advisor, automated wealth management. We were doing B2B, so selling it to banks. We had some of the biggest clients in the world, Standard Chartered, HSBC, Franklin Templeton. Some of the world's biggest, we had clients in Saudi Arabia and Brazil and America. We were doing millions of dollars of revenue. We had billions of dollars of AUM. The business in perception was going quite well. Classic mistake we made. Every big enterprise client that we were selling to. So we were installing technology within their ecosystem. So building, saving, investment. It takes integration. It takes customization. And we were doing too much integration for each client at the wrong price. We should have been charging them millions, not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. And we were losing money on those integrations. And we wanted to integrate, because if we had it live in HSBC, you think, oh, I'm going to get millions of customers. But just because you go live at a bank, it doesn't always mean it's going to work.
Yeah.
So we had some really big wins where some clients went live and we got really good revenue, but many that didn't. And, a lot of that was on us. We were doing integrations that we didn't have knowledge of, integration into core banking, et cetera. So we ended up with a lot of custom work, employing more and more people to do the custom work, which isn't really scalable, not charging enough for that, hoping for the recurring revenue on the outside. And in the middle of 22, we ran out of cash really hard and had to, and that almost death was really hard, because I think we kept it alive. We've talked about this, but the toll it takes on the mental health of a founder when you're in the middle of that, and you're still the captain of the ship and you're trying to keep it going. And you've got to be transparent, but also you've got to take it on yourself. I found that super hard. And we then had 2023 to try to be profitable. We cut all our costs really a lot, came out of our office, cut staff, got rid of unprofitable clients, and we couldn't quite make it. So we took the decision to close it at the end of 23. And it's funny. Not funny, but it's the wrong word. There's a point where you take the decision to close it. Because you're not, you have to be, you're a director, you have to be responsible, you have to take a decision. We weren't going to be able to carry on, couldn't get new investment. But at some point, you have to sign a bit of paper or call a client. So we had to call our clients. Once you make that call, because you were using our technology live, you have to tell them, not we're closing tomorrow, you have to give them 2 months notice. I remember thinking, you make that one call to one bank and tell them you're closing, there's no coming back.
Yeah, of course.
And honestly, Nicole, it's like, I'll do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. So hard. And you'd lie in bed and I was like, it wasn't that I didn't want to wake up, but you're like,
get it.
Okay. And at one point I'm like, all right. And I really, this phrase I think struck me. Bad news doesn't age well. No. Bad news doesn't get better over time.
You keep it inside.
Yeah, but you've got to say it.
Of course.
You've got to do it. You've got to do it. And you pick up the phone to a client. And I always look for the reason to smile in a situation, as crappy as it is. First client I called, I'm like, hey, how are you? And they know me. And they're like, Ned, how are you? And they knew they'd just been on holiday. I say, oh, how was your holiday? And they went into a 5-minute explanation of how their holiday was. And all the while I'm waiting to say, we're closing?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm like, great, great. He's like, how are you?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not so great. He said, why? I'm shutting Bambu. He's like, pardon? Yeah. I mean, those words are very clear. And, in the end of the day, a lot of our clients, we had to liquidate the firm. We sold the technology. We actually sold it multiple times. A lot of our clients brought the code. And so a lot of what we built carried on. Yeah, that's the story.
I have so many things to ask you.
Go for it.
They're racing through my mind right now. But first of all, I wanted to touch a bit deeper about the emotional aspects and the emotional toll that was on you as a founder. Because running a business is brutal. And I can't imagine what you were going through at that time. How do you manage to stay alive while your company was struggling to stay alive as well?
Interesting choice of words, It is, I mean, there's certainly, there were times when I don't think I was functioning well. It's really hard that you've got to make decisions as a founder. You've got to. And at times in Bambu, we had the highs of highs. We raised a lot of money. We won awards. You stand on stage and people are like, hey.
Yeah.
But those signals are confusing.
Yeah.
Those signals tell you, oh, you're great. Well done. You're great. And you're like, great, I'm great. Yeah. But in reality, they're confusing because it doesn't mean you're great. In that moment, you may have done something.
Yes.
How did I stay alive? Honestly, so much going on. I have a great family and they knew what was going on. But, in the end of the day, I've been with my wife 34 years. She's incredibly talented, can do everything, but she can't help Bambu. Not because she isn't talented. It's just not in her world. Yeah. So she wants to help me. She's like, anything I can.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's okay, I got it. And I'd be lying awake at 3 a.m. and she's like, go to sleep. I'm like, I'm trying. Like, I'm really trying. Like, but your brain's like, zzz.
Yeah.
How do you stay alive? You know, honestly, so here's what I did.
Yes.
When it was lunchtime,
Yes.
I would come out of the office or go to my little hawker center.
Yeah.
I like watching poker.
Okay.
I would put it on for 30 minutes.
Right.
And just watch a little bit of poker and try to forget everything else.
Like cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like card games.
Right.
I like
card
poker.
games, yeah.
And just on YouTube, I'll just for half an hour.
Just watch
watch that.
And
Try to
just zone
pretend
out,
that all the crap wasn't going on. I even stopped running for a while, which is rare for me because I just didn't have the wellness in me to do it. And yeah, like you've got to stay alive because you're no good if you're not. The one thing I would say, it feels better when you say it and it's out and you've done it, as hard as it is.
Yeah.
And this is part of what we do here. We share stuff and we both learned that.
Yes.
Yeah, it was super hard. And but it teaches you stuff. And I think I feel a bit better for it today. I regret it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't start Bambu again.
Wow, that's a strong statement. That's a strong statement. You wouldn't start it again. If you were to go back to 8 years ago when you first started Bambu, what would you tell yourself?
Don't do it.
Wow. Why?
It's a double-edged question. I would do it for me. I wouldn't do it for my family. It's hard. Being the partner of a founder, it's really hard. It's really, really hard. And I think a lot of founders only know that once you're in it. When you have the reality is I'm running Bambu, which is a very particular skill set. It's not that...
But it becomes your whole life.
It becomes everything.
Yeah.
And even when you're sitting having dinner with your family, they know that in your brain.
Yeah. I get it.
Calm it down. And then, we didn't exit. We liquidated it. We sold it numerous times in liquidation, but we didn't get any money out of that. As you know, as a startup founder, you don't really get paid much.
Yeah.
You spend a long time going down that path.
Yeah.
It takes a toll there. There is a big opportunity. There's a big cost. My answer is a bit nuanced. I wouldn't do it again, given everything.
Right.
I wouldn't do it again for my family and for the situation. Mm-hmm. For me personally, I'd do it again because I had highs of highs and lows of lows. I had some of the highs, like some of the highest highs.
I get it.
I walked into a VC and walked out with $7 million. I won startup of the year. We sold some of the best. I built a team of. In 2019, we were awarded Singapore's best place to work by Glassdoor and the some Singapore government body.
Wow.
We were the number one rated place to work.
Yeah.
I built a culture of people that we had a great place to work. And that was a high of high. So for me personally, I'd do it again.
Yeah.
For what it did for my life, I would not.
That's a very interesting perspective. And I think it's a choice. It's a choice what you value at the end of the day and what it does for you too. A lot of Asians and Singaporeans in particular, they're very risk averse. And listening to your story, they probably think like, you see, I told you not to take any risks, like better be careful to start a business. But actually, in fact, you learn so much from being in a startup and from actually starting a business, even though it failed, right? And we talked about it, that what do you think you've actually learned from the entire experience and how did it really make you stronger?
I said, I regret it. I do. I also would say, Nicole, would I do it again? Yes and no, because I think I'm a better person today. A long way from being a perfect person, but I think I'm a better person today for it. And I think if I look over the next 10 to 20 years, the scars that I got, the pain that it took will make me better in the long run. So, what would I say to somebody that said, see?
Yeah. See, I told you so.
I've lived in Asia 35 years. I adore living in Asia. I adore it here. But I think one of the challenges is exactly this. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Don't try. Yeah, if we all stay safe and we all don't try, the world's not going to get anywhere, right?
Yeah.
It needs and if you remember the Steve Jobs early advert for apples, it's the crazies. Mm-hmm. It's the crazy people who move things forward. It's the people who try.
Yes.
And the suffering is good. In the first world context, there's a lot of real suffering around the world, but in the first world context, that hard stuff, that having to do the hard things, you will be a way better person.
100%.
In the long run. In the short term, lots of pain. Financial pain, emotional pain, all types of pain. Pain is good. You know, I talk about ultra running.
Yeah.
Like I find that. So what I would say is, I don't think risk is for everyone.
Yeah.
But I truly think a life lived with risk will give you a much more fulfilling, perhaps a less lucrative.
Yeah.
But if you're only chasing money, guys, come on.
Wait, when you said it made you a better person, what does better person mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely different.
Yeah.
I've always been a pretty positive person, so I've always been pretty high energy and pretty jovial, but I will still get hurt again in my life, but I feel that, so this is a weird phrase that I also have a rule with myself now. If I think it, say it. So I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
When I say, you know, you can't, I don't mean you. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't hurt me now. Of course I'm going to get hurt again. People I love are going to die.
Yes.
Things are going to be hard.
Yes.
But I'm like, and you know, what I went through is trivial compared to some real pain. But I'm like, well, it's okay. Like I can do stuff now.
Yeah.
Like I feel, but also I'm much calm. I'm still very high energy.
Right.
But when I see a problem, that's okay. I've had problems. Like it doesn't bother me so much now.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I think I'm more understanding. I think what I've learned is more thoughtful. And one of my dearest friends said to me, Ned, if you'd sold it for 100 million, I think it would have been bad for your life, good for your pocket. You know why? And I wish I had it in front of me. Somebody sent me a quote when it failed. So when it failed, it was quite public.
Yeah.
You know, we built Bambu in public.
Yeah.
And my dear friend told me two things. If you sold it for 100 million, I think you would have been a worse person.
Right.
And secondly, he said, because Tech in Asia wanted to interview me for an article. And I asked him, shall I be interviewed? He's like, Ned, you built in public, die in public. Die in public, absolutely. So when the article went out, a lot of people said, Ned, I'm sorry to hear, but somebody sent to me, I'll see if I can find it again. It was a quote from a football coach. And he said, winning deforms you as a human, whereas loss creates you as a human.
Yeah.
It says the misguided messages you get when you win, when you sell for $100 million. Ned, you're great. You sold for $100 million. You're great. You did great. You did great. A couple of different choices, Nicole. We got a lot right.
Yeah.
A couple of different choices. We could have sold for $100 million. Now I lost. You have to look back at yourself critically.
Yes.
And that's what failure teaches you. Because if everyone says, you're great, well done, well done, at some point you're like, wow, look at me. I'm a genius. Amazing. And I think that phrase, winning, deforms us as humans, whereas loss creates us as humans, even though it's hard.
100%. I never knew what failure or loss or pain meant until I left the bank for a startup. And that's what real pain is, to be in total discomfort and to try your very best to do whatever you can to make things work, but also accepting that some things are just out of your control.
But it's interesting because the phrase I learned at a startup, before we ran out of money, we had like 9 months runway. And of course we didn't make it. Somebody told me, when you have 9 months or whatever, 12 months, the days are long, the months are short. I was working 18-hour days. I was doing everything I could, and the months went like this. At a startup, you can pitch 100 VCs, but not get any return.
Yes.
Unlike, if you're running or other activities, the more you do, the more output you get. In a startup land, you realize, as you've been through, you can do all of your effort.
Yes.
And you don't get the output. It's kind of a rare world.
Exactly.
In most things, you try harder, you do more effort in, and you get more out.
Because you're trying to drive the car and fill the petrol in at the same time. It's a very real, anxiety in the pit of your stomach. And I know how that feels. And it's probably much worse for you because I didn't even found the company, but it's the feeling at the pit of your stomach that you have to keep running and chasing and surviving every day.
Isn't it weird, people ask you, how are you? And as a founder, you're like, I'm fine, thank you. And it's like, oh my God, I think I'm going to die today. Like I really do.
Yeah, exactly. And then, it taught me so much as well to how to manage myself better, my emotions, anxieties. And that's when I started meditation and journaling and taking walks and having time for myself.
But that's, when you ask what benefit do you get from failure or whatever that word is, that's what you get, right?
Yes.
You do get the reality that, wow, that was hard.
Yes.
And I had to do something Otherwise, it would have got harder. And these are the things: meditation, running,
Yes.
journaling. And you may not have found that otherwise.
Is that when you started ultra marathons? Or?
No, I've been running for 30 odd years. I've been running for a long time. Interestingly, so there's an app called Strava. Some people might know it. It's an app where people who run, they record there. So everybody who runs, you can look on Strava to see how much you've run, right?
Okay.
So every day, me and my friends, we can see, he ran 10K. And there was a period when the Bambu died the first time where I didn't run for 3 months. And some friends, not business people,
right,
but close friends, real friends, they're like, are you okay?
Real friends, exactly.
Are you okay? Because if I'm not running, I'm not okay. I'm not okay if I'm not
it.
running. And they were like, because you always run. And no, I wasn't okay. I wasn't mentally well enough to run. I was physically well enough, but I wasn't mentally well enough to run. And so no, I've been running for 30 odd years.
I've been there in terms of not knowing that you're not mentally well enough to even exercise. I want to talk about friends because you mentioned real friends. Because not many people will understand the situation that you're in. Did you find that it was difficult to get people to understand you and therefore give you support as well? Men are typically worse at sharing feelings, I feel. I can't speak as a woman, but in general, I'm 57, right? As kids, you were told, suck it up, right? It's fine. The idea that you would share your feelings was relatively rare. You would share your surface feelings, but relatively rare. Your question about friends, during the really hardest times, there were a few friends who, I would call. I would walk outside the house and I would speak to. And, here's the crazy thing. When you're telling some of your best friends that your business is in such a bad state and it's going to really affect you, all they can do is listen and talk to you. Then give you advice and you take it. But they can't literally put their hands on and do it. I had some friends living in Europe and different places. But it was super important. Obviously, I talked to my wife, about it a lot. But there were a few friends, they know who they are. Yeah.
They can tell you're not well and, they listen to you and it's so valuable. Yeah. So valuable.
I've realized that the importance of having your tribe. However, there is so much of what you have to go through that you have to go through alone. And even though it is very difficult and I'm still going, through my own journey as well, that it makes you so much stronger to actually know how to deal with tough challenges in your life by yourself. Because at the end, it is really you, only you can depend on yourself. You can go to therapists, you can go to friends, partners, whatever, but at the end, it's still you.
Yeah. Right? I mean, it's in the moment, it sucks.
Yes.
In the moment, it sucks to feel crap. But long term, I think you look at it and go, okay. And of course, there's two ways it can go. You can have really tough times and it can lead down a bad path, obviously, and no doubt. But I think if you can come out of it on a better path, alone or with friends, how it is, I think that's a good thing. I wouldn't wish it on people, but as you said, you can't go backwards. So it is. You have to
everyone
learn
has their path. Everyone has their path. Let's talk about sales.
Let's do it.
I know you're super passionate about it.
I am.
But being called a salesperson is one of the dirtiest titles in the industry. And you notice that in different industries, they call salespeople different things. In banks, they call it relationship managers, client advisors, and in some industries, business development associate and that kind of thing. Why are you so passionate about sales?
It's such a great question. As you've probably seen on LinkedIn, my banner says salesman. I used to have that on my card. I used to put salesman. So you're like, oh, you want to be in sales? Yes. So why am I so passionate about it?
Yeah.
I mean, partly, honestly, Nicole, I kind of have to be. It's what I've done for 35 years.
Okay.
I also, partly because it is exactly as you say. You don't want to be in sales, do you? I'm like, yes, I do. I really do. It's great. It's fabulous. So I'm passionate about it because I think, not so much we're all salespeople, because honestly, we're not all salespeople. Yeah. We're all selling every day. We're all have relationships where we're talking about our ideas, listening to ideas. But, it is the lifeblood of business.
Yeah.
I kind of also like it because it's so maligned and because people are like, it sucks. Like, no, we can make it really a great thing to do. And a lot of people do it in the wrong way because I don't believe in selling to sell. I believe in relationships.
Yes.
If you build a good relationship with somebody, they'll buy you if you have a good product. So I'm passionate about it because I enjoy it. I think it's got a really poor perception.
Yeah.
But as I started the sales movement and I meet a lot of startups, most people just don't know how to sell. They actually don't know how to sell.
So how do you sell?
By not selling.
Yeah, agree.
You sell by not selling. You don't turn up and go, hey, can I sell you this microphone? You're up like, hey, how you doing? Great. So you're running how's your podcast going? Great. Where do you record it? Oh, okay. Tell me about it. Okay. And so how do you record it? And you tell me about it. Oh, you use anyway, the idea of sales is to build a relationship with somebody that they will ask you what you're selling. You never tell them what you're selling. They ask you what you're selling. And if you can do that, I call it theater, dance. You go in a room and you yourself can control the room to come to this point when they look at you and go, so what do you guys do again? Because you gave them the space to tell you what they were thinking, where they wanted to be. And once you do that and you realize, I did that just with my words. So cool.
Yeah, I can completely resonate with that. You know, we talked about it. I was never raised a salesperson. Whenever I do stuff, you're like, wow, Nicole, you're like, you look like you're selling and you're marketing stuff in that way, but it never really came across as sales. But earlier you told me like you're selling all the time, you know?
But there is this natural, you see this perception of, somebody in a suit pushing a product on you. That is the end of sales that people don't like. I completely agree. Yeah. And a lot of people say, I'm not a salesperson. But, Nicole, you might say you're not a salesperson, but you have natural people abilities. You just do. You have whether that's through, in real life, we've met, you have great people skills. Online, you're understanding. But you're never pushing, hey, I'm Nicole and I do this. I do this or buy this. Yeah. It's this, hey, what do you do? And you have a relation and you talk. Yes. And I think some people, whether it's through their upbringing, their life, where they worked, and you can practice it, no doubt you can practice it. But once you realize, oh, wow, like my job is just to be here and listen. And finally, and if they say that they need what you have, then you're there. Of course, you get really good at being at the right place at the right time, listening to the right people, asking the right questions. But you don't have to be a salesperson. I don't want anybody to be a salesperson selling. Yes. I want to be somebody that you want to buy from. That's my goal. I want to be the person that you want to buy from. Yeah.
Do you agree that you have to be likable?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Right.
100%.
People must like you to want to work with you, partner with you, and therefore ask you what you can offer them.
Here's a best tip ever. My wife taught me this. If you want, and I hate to say if you want someone to like you, because they should just like you for who you are, right? If you meet someone, let's say for the first time you meet someone, and you're introduced, oh, hey, and you're chatting. Mm-hmm. When you leave the conversation, can you remember 3 things about that person? Because if you can't, it wasn't a good conversation for them.
Yeah.
Let's say we met and I told you, hey, Nicole, I've done this, and hey, I've done this, hey, I've done this. And you leave and Nicole's like, well, I didn't get to say my piece. It's part of sales that if you can get them to talk about themselves, so just as a tip, everybody, you should leave every conversation, not with perhaps a friend, but with a person. If you can't remember 3 things of what they said, it wasn't a good conversation for them. So yeah, you have to be likable, but you can also learn that skill as well.
That's a very good point. To do sales or to sell well, you actually have to learn how to have a good conversation.
100%. That's all it is.
Exactly. And I totally resonate with what you said, because even for this podcast, what I usually ask my guests after the end is not whether I felt the podcast was good, it's how do you feel about it?
Correct.
So I'm going to ask you as well, like how do you feel about the podcast? Because it is about you and how you felt rather than what I thought about it. I mean, that's also important, but
I tell, so I'm working with a bunch of startups now, and this sounds quite harsh. So as you say, I'm more gentle in real life, but I tell them, okay, so you've built a B2B product.
Yeah.
Really important from a sales perspective to understand that you suck and your product sucks.
Ouch.
Yeah. I don't actually mean they suck and their product sucks. Mm-hmm. What I mean is I don't want to hear from you. We need to practice listening to what the client wants. I know you love your product. I know you love to talk about your product. I get it. I did too. I get it. But if you turn up to a meeting and talk about your product and you, we're not winning here. If you turn up to a meeting and think to yourself, okay, I'm not going to mention me or my product, and just give them the opportunity to say how they're doing. Obviously, they have some interest in your product, otherwise they're not in the room. And people only buy things when they want something different in their future. If you were totally happy with your situation today, you'd never buy anything.
Yeah.
But when you're hungry, you buy food. When you're bored, you buy Netflix. And when you want to go somewhere, you buy an airline ticket. So they've brought you into this meeting because they need a different future state. So let them describe that future state. Oh, yeah, I need this technology because they need more revenue, or I need to change this, and let them describe it and what the world is like. And they'll be there. And then you're like, oh, maybe I can help you get there.
So listening.
Yes, but nobody buys anything if they're happy with their current state. You always buy something because you want a different future state. So you have to listen, but you also have to encourage them to describe that future state. And if they can do that and they describe the future state and your product fits, I always say this.
Yeah.
If you have a crappy product, don't sell it.
Right.
It can't help. But if your product does help, and if your product can help them to get there,
yeah,
and they've described it, and you can show it to them, and they buy it, great.
And if your product is not good enough, then go back and see what can be better.
Yes, but also, unless you're a founder, if you work in sales,
true,
get another job.
Well, reality check. That's actually really true, because I'm just suddenly thinking about the Formula One race and drivers who are good and have good cars. It's a win-win, right? Win-win-win.
100%.
But for drivers who are good and don't have that great cars, it's hard for them to win a race as well.
100%. I mean, this idea that you sell what you love, absolutely. Right now, I can sell a lot of the sales movement, partly because I think it's what I've meant to be doing all my life. I think this is it. But then again,
your calling.
I'm a delusional startup founder. So every startup founder thinks their idea is brilliant. So maybe I'm no different. But at the moment it works. And I'm like,
awesome.
I really love this. I really like doing it. And when I turn up and I talk to people about sales, nobody's like, yeah, this doesn't fit. They might not want to buy it. That's totally fine. But Ned selling sales?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, yeah, that makes sense. And it's taken a long time to get there.
Yeah.
I had to go through the ups and the downs to get there. But you're right, whether it's driving a car if you find that perfect fit.
You feel in flow. You feel in flow, right?
100%.
And I love that state as well. So why do startup founders and people why aren't they good in sales?
Oh, it's hard. I mean, I think it's, number one, it's not for everybody, Nicole. A lot of startup founders are product people. Nothing against product people, but they can't sell. The other one is, I've done it for 35 years, so I have these numbers, and I've tried to make sure they're as accurate. I have done more than 25,000 sales meetings in my life.
Wow.
I have been selling for it's nearly 36 years now. Wow. I have always been in sales. It's all about. I've also managed people. I love managing people, but that's sales as well. Getting somebody at work to achieve their goals is sales. And so some people are not good at sales because they just haven't done it. When you started meditating or journaling, you probably weren't very good at it.
No.
And every day you do it, you get a little bit better.
Yes.
Imagine you journaled for 35 years. You would be an unbelievable... I'm not saying you're not an unbelievable writer today, but in the same token, Joe Rogan, not everybody's cup of tea, but he's been podcasting for 15 years.
True.
He should be really good at it.
True.
Not because I'm talented, but because I have a superpower. I'm old. After 35 years of doing the same thing, sales, you really know how to do it. But a lot of startup founders, they're product builders or they've not been in sales. So when they come to it, they build a product, they're all excited, and they just don't have the experience.
So everybody can be good at sales. Do you think?
I think if you have to be, let's face it, let's say you were really hungry and on the streets, you had to beg for money, that's sales. You get good at it. Everybody given enough, if it's tough enough, everyone can do it. Do I think everyone should work in sales? I do not. No, it is absolutely not for everyone.
Right.
I couldn't work in a range of I'm very unstructured. I should not work in system engineering because it's very structured and it's just not me. So no, I don't. And I think very few people are great at sales. Very.
So what makes a great
DNA
salesperson?
DNA. I'm going to reference this guy called Tim Lowe. Tim, if you're listening, man, you know it. I just interviewed this guy. It was 25 years ago. Young Canadian Chinese guy in Hong Kong. You just walked in the room and he was just magnetic. He just had the energy, he
Right.
had the good vibes,
Yeah.
he was professional.
Yeah.
He came into our business and just sold a lot. So I think it's just DNA. Some people just are magnetic.
I have a different view.
Go for it.
I think some of it is your personality.
Yep.
But I think a lot of it also has to do with knowing yourself better and being comfortable in your own skin.
It's a great point.
So that, you have different styles of sales, right? Some people are magnetic and charismatic and you're like, whoa, I want to buy from this person. Some people are quieter, but
Sure.
at the same time, both can be magnetic. And it's about being okay with who you are and comfortable in your own skin so that when you actually pitch something or when you actually tell someone something that you become so believable that you become magnetic too.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Right?
And I think you're right. I mean, I think I'm finding that now, the sales movement. I don't have to think about it. I just walk in
Yeah.
and it just flows out because it feels natural. That's a good point. Also, and I feel, maybe after the Bambu experience, hey, I peeled a few layers back and
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm fine with who I am.
Yeah, exactly. I actually really think so. Okay, so we talked about Bamboo, we talked about sales. Let's talk about your other love, which is ultra endurance sports. How did that come about? You said that you've been running for 30 years.
Yeah.
When did you start competing in these 100-kilometer races?
I was in Hong Kong. So there's a very famous race in Hong Kong called the Mackelhouse Trail or Trail Walker.
Okay.
Hong Kong has very big hills. I think people know through Hong Kong's a big city, but amazing hills and countries. I lived in Hong Kong for 10 years. And in 1990 something, I was working in a sales room and a guy called Justin Hodge, never forget, he stood up and said, guys, there's a 100-kilometer race. It's very famous in Hong Kong. We need teams of 4. I'm doing it. Who wants to do it? I had no background in running. I'd done a tiny bit. And I was like, that sounds fun. Let's do this. I was like, stuck my hand up. He's like, let's do it. So me, Justin, a guy called Gary Haslam, and then another guy on that team was a guy called Rob Hart, who became one of my best friends. And as a team of 4, we set out, we trained a bit. We didn't know what we were doing. And then we came 3rd, 4th overall out of like 1,000 teams. I was like, whoa. Because I've never really been good at any sport. I'm like, wow, we're good at this.
And do you train for it?
Yes.
400 kilometers? You didn't?
We trained a bit, a few months, nothing special.
Really?
And Justin and Gary, the 2 guys are great, but me and Rob grew really close. And Rob's gone on to do some amazing things. He's climbed Mount Everest. We've done tens of thousands of kilometers. But we found this kindred just running. We would go out and just run through the hills for 6, 7, 8 hours at a go. And
whoa.
we were like, we enjoyed it. Like anything, if you're good at something, it helps, right?
Of course.
Nobody wants to repeat something they suck at, right? If we'd come last at the 100K, I doubt I would have been so enthused.
I get it.
No doubt there's a bit of ego involved. And I just kept doing it, making me feel good. I was okay at it. And then I really got into running, got into Ironman, went to the World Championships.
So you started this how many years ago?
1994 or 5.
Okay.
And Hong Kong was a great place to run. I came here. When I came here, I was like, I had this idea in my head. I like self-styled adventures. So in 2005, when I arrived here in 2003. I was like, I'm going to run around Singapore.
Okay.
So I looked at them. It's 130K. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. So I started at the Fullerton Hotel. You know the Fullerton Hotel?
Yes.
Because I was a member of the gym there because I worked nearby. And yeah, I didn't really have Google phone because it was 2005.
Right.
And yeah, I ran a loop of Singapore. It took me like 18 hours. Did it by myself. And it was really, really felt great. It really felt, even, people say you have to go far to do an adventure.
Yeah.
I just left my house and I had an adventure.
Wow.
That's what I like about Ultra. I have some very, very big ideas and goals and I just loved it. And I continue to love it. And I'm very addicted to it. At the moment, I can't run. I'm a bit injured, but I'm very addicted to it. And
what makes you addicted to it?
It's a really great question. Addictions
comes from a deeper place, actually.
I like gambling. I need to stay away from that.
Thank you for your honesty.
I don't think you should leave me alone in Vegas. If you leave me alone in Vegas, this is not
don't go to Vegas.
Don't go,
I'll tell your wife.
Exactly. Oh, like, don't go to Vegas. I don't know. I think maybe addiction is it personality? Is a deeper thing. I don't know. There's no doubt. What I love how I feel doing it.
Yes.
I also have a feeling I could run forever.
Whoa.
Like I'm going to run across America one day. I'm going to run the length. And I want to be the fastest person over 60 to run across America.
Wow.
I'm about to go to the World Championships of Backyard Ultra, which is this like repeated last man standing event where I want to run 500K. So I like it because I love the adventure. I like the mindset I can get into do it. I like the competition. I like winning. I'm the current Singapore champion of ultra running, backyard ultra running, and I'm 57 and makes me feel good. So
are you the oldest?
The oldest what?
The oldest competitor?
No.
Okay.
But
the oldest winner?
You mean of that?
Yeah, of that race.
Oh, I'm probably both. I'm probably the oldest. And then there was a national team, 15 people in Singapore were selected. The best guy here is a guy called Joshua Toh. So I want to be clear. Who's the best? So backyard ultra is when you run 6.7K.
Yeah.
And in a loop.
Yeah.
On the hour, every hour, until no one's left. One person's left.
Whoa.
So let's say I run it in 52 minutes for the loop. Not very fast. I have 8 minutes to rest. Then I stand on the line again. If Joshua runs it in 46 minutes, he gets 14 minutes to rest. But of course, if you run faster, you use more energy. And you keep doing that in loops until there's only one person left.
So you were the last one there?
I was the last one recently. To be fair, Joshua is the Singapore king at it. But I then got selected. So 2 years ago, he then went to the World Championships to represent Singapore. In America, I'm going this year to represent Singapore at the World Championships, where I will be right down the bottom because the world record, Nicole, 110 hours, 700 kilometers, 4.5 days, on the hour, every hour, 6.7K.
Gosh.
And I like the fact that it's a bit like start. I do these posts on a weekend, start up and running, ultra. Yeah. They're both hard. They both teach you stuff. Yeah. Ultra's hard. It's awesome. You had some tough times in your startup, but you also had some great times, right? Yeah. You learned some stuff. You did some stuff. And so I like it for a bunch of reasons, and I'm addicted to it because it makes me feel great. And I'll be honest, serves my ego a little bit when I win things, and I don't hate that. The
startup wasn't challenging enough. You had to do this, right?
I honestly, quite often, when I'm running, I do things like I'll go out for a 100-mile run of my own accord, and I'll set myself a time for 24 hours to finish it, and I have to do it. No one cares if I do it. It's not a race. I'll just go out and run 100 miles. And I just know I'm going to do it. And I sometimes think, this is hard. Bambu was really hard. Bambu was way harder. Harder.
Do you think this helped you become more resilient when you were...
You mean Bambu or the running?
The running.
I think both. Yeah.
So when you run for 150 kilometers around Singapore, do you ever stop?
I run into a 7-Eleven to buy juice, of course.
And that's it?
That's it. Yeah, no, there's no, and the clock keeps ticking. And it's quite funny. So when I set myself 24 hours to run 100 miles, so I don't know if you know what the park run is there. Every Saturday morning, there's a 5K race on the East Coast Park.
Oh, no wonder I see people running.
Yes, 7:30 a.m.
Are you there?
Well, so I've done it quite a lot.
Okay.
But it's free and it's every Saturday at 7:30.
I see that.
This time, I went to the start of that race at 7:30 a.m. Friday. Just me. No one was there.
Yeah.
Knowing that the race starts in 24 hours.
Yes.
And I was going to do 100 miles and come back in time. If I don't make it in time, the race starts without me.
Right.
So if I go into 7-Eleven to buy a juice, my clock keeps thinking.
Yeah.
So honestly, I would go in, and if there's a queue, I'm like, I can't wait. So I'll go to the next one, run it, and I got to get the juice. I got to drink it because 10 minutes in a 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. So I never stop. I made it back with 3 minutes to spare.
Whoa.
I made it back in 23 hours, 57 minutes.
How much weight do you lose after the race?
Yeah, quite a lot comes back on. I don't think running 100 miles is healthy for you. When I do backyard, I'm going to try and run 500K straight. I want to break 3 days. And it's very unreasonable. I've never gone that far. And do I think it's healthy for you? No, I absolutely don't. I don't think running a startup's healthy for you either.
Does it mean that you eat anything that you want now?
Yeah, but you can't outrun a bad diet. In the last year, I've been eating really healthy. I stopped drinking, eating really healthy. My weakness is sugar. I love cake, ice cream, and biscuits, but you can't outrun the bad diet. I haven't eaten processed sugar for 8 months now. I've eaten completely clean, haven't drunk, no processed sugar, just drink water and coffee, nothing bad for 8 months, not a drop. Because I'm going to the World Championships. If I can't be disciplined now, when can you?
So Ned, you told me that I could ask you anything.
Anything.
So I'm going to ask you a series of rapid fire questions.
Let's do it.
But before we get there, if you've experienced so much, right, in your business and sales and life. If there was one or two messages or pieces of advice that you would give people today, what would you say to them?
One's a fairly random piece of advice.
Nothing's random. I've learned.
And it's going to sound, yeah, you're right. Maybe I sound way harsher online than in normal.
You actually really do, like almost 3 times less harsh.
My message is no one cares. What I mean is your loved ones deeply care about you. People who care about you deeply care about you. But these ideas that, I wonder what people will think. No one cares. You know, when you post on LinkedIn, and it can be hard, I know. But people are so caught up. The message is this. Don't be caught up by other people's opinions of you. I'll tell you why. If you're a good person, why does it matter what people think? I think I'm a good person. I try my best. I make mistakes. I try my best. So why, and this is what the Bambu has taught me. Why should I worry what people think? If I'm a good person, and I'm always trying to do good, it doesn't mean I make mistakes. If you're a good person, why do you worry what people think? So I say whatever I want because I never go out to hurt people. I never mean to say something mean. So that's the one thing I would say. And the other thing I would say on the flip side, which my father-in-law, it's my favorite phrase in the world. If you can be anything in life, just be kind. Just be kind. Be a nice person. Never do bad things. Just be kind. I mean, I went through some stuff with Bambu where some of the people were not kind. Just be kind.
Yeah.
If we were all kind, we were all empathetic. And my mum, she passed away, but she was a social worker. And when she met a homeless person in the street, she wouldn't give them money. She would sit down on the pavement with them and talk to them. You know what people want? They want to listen.
Yeah.
They want you to be kind. Be kind. Everybody's got their own journey.
100%.
Just be kind.
I think I really resonated with being kind and or at least learning to be more empathetic as well. And I think your experience in Bambu has definitely taught you how to be more empathetic to people and to different situations and failures and mistakes, because you may not have experienced those things in the past as well.
If you're trying to be a decent person, don't say crappy things. Don't be mean to people. If you're always trying to be a good person, then why are you worried what other people think?
I have a different. It's not that I'm also on a journey of learning not to care about what other people think, but I do think that sometimes it's not true that actions speak louder than words. I think sometimes how you say things can come across as differently to other people, and if you weren't as deliberate with the choice of your words and your tone, it may not be able to send the message that you intended to the other person as well. And that's something I've learned, whether it's with LinkedIn or with just, in the podcast and how I speak to people, is that the tone of your voice, the choice of your words matter a lot as well. Okay, so rapid fire questions. I'm going to take out my phone right now.
Let's go.
Okay, number 1, Ned, if you had to describe your entrepreneurship journey as a race, what kind of race would it be?
Wow. I can't say ultra marathon because that's
too long.
That's too dramatic. This is going to sound strange. It was a race. I didn't know how to run. I just didn't know how to do it.
Wow.
I didn't know. It was my first go. Bambu was my first try. I didn't know how to do it. I can't tell if it was a running race or a swimming race or a bike race. It was a race I was simply unequipped for, and I simply did not know what to do. And I did not have the right skills to do it. And I think from a high level, most people could have seen it was going to end that way if they'd looked.
Yeah.
The wrong race.
Okay. Remember, nothing's ever the wrong race. I think it's just learning from that race itself. As
one of my dear friends says, yes, Ned, but that means in the next 10 years, the skills you learn, you'll be doing better.
Yeah.
But I went into it blindly with pure optimism and belief, which sometimes isn't enough.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Next question. What's the most unexpected place you've ever closed a deal at?
So I have done door-to-door sales a lot. Like proper door-to-door sales. And, it seems so strange, I'm in London, you're in a tower block, you're pacing up and down, knocking on doors, and then I just found this dude who was just standing outside having a cigarette. And I used to sell life insurance. And I just stopped beside him. And he said, do you want a cigarette? I don't smoke. I was like, sure. You know, in the moment you do it.
I get
and
it.
I sold him something standing there. And I was like, this is so random.
Outside his house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just standing there. I was like, this is weird. And the funny thing is, you know,
I don't smoke.
I don't smoke. I have to play a part here. This is really odd.
Things you do for a sale.
Exactly. So that, yeah, I don't need to smoke to get a sale.
Okay, cool. Okay, very good. Number 3, if you could choose a song as your sales tagline, what would it be?
So I did, you know, it's difficult. I love music. Everyone loves music. Well,
I love music.
I think everyone loves music. And there's, you know, there's this one song that people may not know. It's called Come On Eileen.
I know that. Of course I know that.
By Dexy's Midnight Runners.
Yeah.
You know, from the 90s. And the reason I love it, it's one of my favorite songs. So I don't go, that's right. I don't go clubbing anymore. I'm a little too old for that. But if I'm somewhere that comes on, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta like jump down. And I think sales is about energy. And I love the kind of rhythm of that song, particularly, I don't know if you remember it, but it's, and then it stops.
Yeah. Then it slows down again. Yeah.
And then that's like a sales, you know? You got to get everybody excited and then, okay, are we all here? Everybody's into it? All right, now we can see if you want to close the deal. And that's, I mean, partly this is my favorite song in the world. If I had to choose one song to only listen to on repeat, it is that song.
Right.
But also, it has an energy to it, the way it rises and falls and then goes quiet. And sales is about that. Sales isn't about just one directional. Sales is a sales meeting goes up and down and they come and, you know, like a dance, backwards and forwards. So it would be Come On Eileen by Dexy's Midnight Runners. I
love that. Good choice. 4th question, if you could meet a famous personality, past or present, who would that be?
Yeah, you know, I'm going to meet him, I hope. I know exactly who it is. I've wanted to meet him forever.
Okay.
People who are listening to this, who know me know. So there's a guy called Lazarus Lake.
Okay.
His real name is Gary Cantrell.
Okay.
He is the race organizer of Backyard Ultra. He's basically this 70-year-old gentleman who lives in Tennessee, who's the greatest organizer of ultra distance races.
Okay.
And if you think I sound harsh in real life, this dude says, his mantra is this: you learn nothing by finishing.
Yeah.
You only learn by failing. So all of his races, almost no one can finish. He puts on unfinishable races. The reason I want to meet him, I've been such a huge fanboy of him. He's so famous in our space. He resonates with everything. He's a very humble. He'd be horrified that somebody was like wanted to meet him. And I was dreamed about meeting him. And then I won the Singapore Backyard, and I'm going to go and meet him. He is the oracle in a sport of ultra running. Mm-hmm. And the thought that I would spend my life in ultra running and not meet him would make it very sad. So I know most people won't know who he is, but Lazarus Lake is the Zen Buddha of the thing I love the most.
Well, I hope you meet him.
Yeah, well, I'm going.
Yeah.
As long as my running gets back on track.
Okay, cool. Last question. What's something people will be surprised to know about you?
People, as you say, people have different
sides,
very different perceptions of it. I think it's, sounds really stupid to say. I think people think I'm good at business. People think I'm this organized guy who can figure it all out. I have, like everybody, right? I still wonder what's going on a little bit. I think people will be surprised because, but like yourself, like we talked, we're both out on LinkedIn going, yay, we're doing these things. Mm-hmm. Everyone has this perception, oh my God, you figured it all out.
Yeah.
And I know it's a very cliched thing to say. I'd like to think that people perceive me as a decent guy and try my best and that part of it. But I think that people would be surprised about is that, I'm a long way from figuring it out. Very much a work in progress.
I love that. It's a very real and honest perspective of who we are and where we're at in life. I mean, to be very honest, not everybody is as open and honest as you in terms of sharing where you're at and who you really are, because so much of our personas are online and it's a perception of we want to portray.
For sure.
And it's something that people see us as, but this is the real life, like here, you and I in physical reality and not online. And I think that nothing can replace that. And I think being true to yourself and true to your current stage of life is really what matters, and that's growth as well.
Yeah, well, look, absolutely. I've enjoyed chatting with you. You're good at asking questions and getting.
Did I ask?
I know.
Thank you.
It's nice to chat about it. It really is.
Thank you. I really
It's been a
appreciate
pleasure.
your time. Thank you so much, Ned. I think you've shared so much today. Really hope the audience finds it really meaningful. So thank you so much, Ned. And
No worries. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.